anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The NBA will take center stage once football stops, and people will watch the NBA playoffs and all that. But the standings are whacked out in the Western Conference. Like Oklahoma City, Memphis, and the Houston Rockets are the best teams in the conference.
You want to talk about a team with overs and no defense? The Wizards are your team. It's unbelievable. They can't make a total high enough. It's nuts.
Sports Rage tonight. Weeknights 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Louis Riddick has interviewed for every job in North America. And I'm not just talking football. I'm talking about every business in North America of any kind whatsoever. Tire companies, grocery store CEOs, shopping malls, insurance companies. What job hasn't Louis Riddick interviewed for?
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
We welcome you to hour number 3, our third and final on this Monday, following the end of the 2024 National Football League regular season. Live right here to start off a new week on the early line. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. One more hour to go. So the regular season is now over. It is time for playoff football in the NFL. What each conference has from its postseason picture perspective, the outlook from the odds in the chase for a conference championship, and of course, a Lombardi trophy as well. All of that here in this third hour, looking at Super Wild Card Weekend and the matchups that will kick off the opening round of the NFL postseason. We'll also take a look at the draft order, the top 5, the top 10, the top 18 that has already been decided without the playoff teams at the end of the regular season. So much to get to here, DRS, up until 11 a.m., live right here on the early line.
Some teams are playing for championships. Some teams are already in the offseason trying to find their head coach and who they're going to actually draft and get on with the life of their franchise. And some players, looking for new teams, obviously, but the fan bases, that's the one that you worry about. Like, you look at a couple of these bad football teams where they suffered through 18 weeks of football. Just give them something to be happy about here with a good draft, with a good free agency. And for myself, everybody but the New York Giants have a great offseason and a great free agency and a great draft. I think we can all wish that well.
Yes, we certainly can, DRS. There is so much to get to. For 18 teams in the NFL, it's draft season. It's the early stages of the offseason. For 14, a postseason is on the horizon. And for a few, who is the best bet to win a Super Bowl championship, Super Bowl 59, in just about a month in New Orleans? A lovely place to visit. Hope I get to do so one day. At SportsGrid on Twitter, as we enter the NFL playoffs, which team is the best bet to win Super Bowl 59? That was the question for all of you in Fade the Public. Listen, there are 14 teams to choose from, right? But there's only 4 options that you can post in a Fade the Public poll at SportsGrid on Twitter. So we go with the top 3, but a small caveat. with some movement on this Monday morning. The Ravens and the Bills tied for the third best price to win a Super Bowl championship, but the Lions, the favorites, at 3-1. The two-time reigning Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, that's second best price at plus 350. So at SportsGrid on Twitter, which team is the best bet to win a Lombardi trophy? Donnie, it's a pretty even split right here, my friend.
It is.
The Lions, the Chiefs, the Bills. 27.7 for the Lions, 28.3 for KC, 27.2 for Buffalo. In the other, we asked for a reply, getting nearly 17%. Our guy Hollywood Hernandez saying the Ravens are on full throttle. Another account saying the Packers are the best bet. Goodfellas Laugh is his name, one of Donnie's good friends. DRS, which way did you vote for the Super Bowl 59 best bet decision?
Well, for me, I saw the other, so I didn't vote for it because I didn't want to hit other and then have to reply Eagles. It's a little bit too much time for my morning. So I just stuck with the Lions, Chiefs, and the Bills and made my decision from there. But plus 350, I did go with the Chiefs, who have the slight lead at 28%, over 27% for the Lions and 27% for the Buffalo Bills. You now have the bye week where the Chiefs can rest and get ready. The Chiefs will be home for the holidays, as I like to say, with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. They will be in the Super Bowl. Then Andy Reid gets 2 weeks to get ready, and as long as Patrick Mahomes shows up in the football game, they're going to beat whoever they play at that point. So for me, I'm going to vote Chiefs at a plus 350 price. As a fan, I hope they don't get there because we always like something new to talk about for those 2 weeks other than the Chiefs and the Patriots for the past 20 straight years, it feels like. But it just feels like we are heading down that path where the Chiefs are lined up once again and probably playing their best football and getting players back at the right time. That's tough to see, but I got Chiefs plus 350 is where my vote went.
This is year number 7 in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes as the starting quarterback. In the previous 6, they have reached the Super Bowl 4 times. They have won 3 Super Bowls. They have played in the AFC Championship game all 6 seasons. They have hosted the AFC title game 5 of those 6 times. Last year was the first time KC had to go on the road. They did as an underdog twice, winning outright in Western New York against the Bills and the Ravens in the AFC Championship game. How could you doubt or even fault the public for trying to attempt to even fade Kansas City? It is the correct way of looking at it. I selected the Lions just because I have a bet on Detroit to win Super Bowl 59. The Lions hoping to play in a Super Bowl for the first time in franchise history. My number is 6-1. It is now half that at plus 300. But it should say, DRS, as we look at the structure and the path for how these teams will get to a Super Bowl. We start in the NFC. Game 272 was critically important because the winner last night in Detroit, Lions and the Vikings, would be the 1 seed and the divisional champ. The loser would be on the road as the 5 seed. Detroit got that 1 seed. A critical open weekend and time to rest for a team that is incredibly banged up. The Lions, the 1 seed, the Eagles, the 2, the Bucs, the 3, the Rams, the 4. The Vikings, the top at-large team, a wild card spot as the 5 seed. The Commanders, the 6, the Packers, the 7. Here are the NFC Championship odds and where things stand in this conference. The Lions, a short favorite, Donnie, at a plus 135 number. The Eagles, the second best price at plus 320. The Vikings and the Packers both see their prices get longer after a disappointing final weekend of the regular season.
And it's right. And you look at those numbers there, the Lions should be the favorite here. They get to buy their home field. They're a dome team. They don't have to go outdoors because I think we can both agree the 2 best teams in the NFC are the Eagles and the Lions will have home field advantage. That is a big, big deal. Also, the Eagles will get a tough matchup against the Packers right off the bat. Those 3s, which are the look-ahead lines, now getting up to 5.5 at some outlets here. But if we just go chalk all the way through, like Dan Campbell might be right. Like in 2 weeks, you might be seeing the Vikings go up against the Lions because let's just say if the Buccaneers win, the Rams win, that's how it filters down the teams that you're going to play here. So I do think that road to the Super Bowl is extremely tough because you're going to get good punches, even though you have the buys of the Detroit Lions. If your games are going to be the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles on your way to the Super Bowl, boy, you earn the right to play in the Super Bowl. And the same thing with the Eagles, beating the Packers, then the second-round opponent, and then eventually maybe finding your way to playing on the road against the Detroit Lions. But I don't have any discrepancies with the way those those odds are. If it does get down to the chalk wins out in the NFC and it's the Eagles and the Lions, that will be an epic football game in Detroit if we make it that far to watch it. But I do agree that plus 135 price, it should be the Lions. They're home field. They're a good football team. They deserve it.
Personally, I would be surprised if it's not the Lions and the Eagles in Detroit, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. In all three of our opening round NFC playoff games on Super Wildcard Weekend, the spread 4.5 or fewer. Very different story in the AFC. The Chiefs, the 1 seed, once again. Home field advantage, a conference championship runs through Arrowhead. The Bills, the 2 seed. The Ravens, the 3 seed. The Texans, the 4 seed. Houston, a home dog, though, to start the postseason against the Chargers. The Steelers, 9.5-point road dog in Baltimore. The Broncos, 8.5-point road underdog in Western New York. So, Donnie, AFC title odds still, as it really has been all season long, a tier of 3. The Chiefs, the Bills, then the Ravens.
Now, look, those tier of 3, either one of those teams can beat each other. If you're talking neutral site Super Bowl action, which I understand they're in the AFC, they can't meet there, but hear me out. You'd be like, you know what, coin flips all the way around. But you take the coin flips out of the equation where, again, it used to be 2 teams get buys, now we get 1. Major advantage. 1 team doesn't have to leave their home building as long as they win. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs getting healthy at the right time with Andy Reid as your head coach and maybe the most, unheralded defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, who comes up with gem game plans, game after game after game in the playoffs. He has extra weeks to prepare. I would be surprised if the Chiefs once again aren't playing for another Super Bowl, which will be a 3rd win in the row. Nobody's ever done it.
Hard to bet against it right now is what I would say. The injury insight for the NFL postseason next.
I don't like to toot my own horn, and I know that I'm setting myself up for probably disappointment later tonight, but I hope you were with us last week on the Final 5 because we almost swept the board. We had 2 out of 3 on the power play points with Reinhardt and Matthews. We hit the goal scorer line A. We hit the side with Washington. We hit the total with the over in Toronto and Buffalo. So we had a really good Final 5 last week, and I'm hoping that we can now ride that wave.
Only on SportsGrid.
50 points in a fourth quarter for the Atlanta Hawks. Like, what is going on? It's like circus numbers. What are we doing?
And we sound like 2 old heads complaining. It's a tough watch. It's a tough watch sometimes. I don't mind the shooting. I just know the numbers. Like, when you strictly look at it from the numbers in betting, it's getting really hard to bet.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Louis Riddick has interviewed for every job in North America. And I'm not just talking football. I'm talking about every business in North America of any kind whatsoever. Tire companies, grocery store CEOs, shopping malls, insurance companies. What job hasn't Louis Riddick interviewed for?
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
The NBA will take center stage once football stops, and people will watch the NBA playoffs and all that. But the standings are whacked out in the Western Conference. Like, Oklahoma City, Memphis, and the Houston Rockets are the best teams in the conference.
You want to talk about a team with overs and no defense? The Wizards are your team. It's unbelievable. They can't make a total high enough. It's nuts.
Sports Rage tonight. Weeknights 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the early line. It's the end of the National Football League regular season. So as the pro football doc, Dr. David Chao, joins us right now at the end of the regular season, it's the insight and the analysis from an injury and health perspective for those playoff teams continuing in action around the National Football League. Dr. Chao, as always, we appreciate the time on this Monday morning, looking back on the final weekend of the regular season and some critical injuries that will be incredibly important for postseason runs about to begin.
Absolutely. And for the other 18 teams not in the playoffs, this is the busiest day of the year for medical with exit physicals, et cetera. And there are 3 times or more surgeries at the end of the season than during the season. A lot of cleanup work to be done.
That is for sure. An offseason, hopefully, of rest. Right now, though, for those playoff teams, it is getting ready to start your postseason march. Dr. Chao, yesterday, the Packers in a game at Lambeau as a 9.5-point favorite against the Bears really did not have their playoff destiny in their own hands. If the Commanders won in Dallas, Washington would be the 6th seed. It wasn't easy for the Commanders, but they did claim the number 6 seed in the NFC postseason, which led to the Packers faltering not only against the Bears, but also with some critical injuries now moving forward. Christian Watson out with a knee injury, it would seem, but mostly, Dr. Chao, the quarterback in Jordan Love, injured early in the game. They turned it over to Malik Willis, but then we saw Jordan Love starting to warm up on the sidelines in a critical juncture down the home stretch of that game. The Packers are calling it an elbow injury. What is his prognosis as Green Bay is getting ready to head to Philadelphia to start off the postseason?
First of all, if you don't think teams on a sideline, even though there's no electronic communication and they may not broadcast scores on the scoreboard, if you don't think teams on the sideline know the score of the other game, you're crazy. I've been there. They know. From a sideline reporter, from somebody, from whatever different sources, they get the trickle. And that's why Jordan Love also was warming up. Good news on Jordan Love. Yes, he exited the game, and anytime you say elbow, it's a worry. But it was a contusion to the medial elbow or the funny bone. And we said it from the war room in game. The way that he was flexing his hand, the way he was grabbing these 2 fingers, the way he's gripping the football, this is an ulnar nerve temporary contusion injury, funny bone injury, somewhere between what Josh Allen had a couple weeks ago and Brock Purdy had recently last week as well. And we do believe that Jordan Love could have returned to the game. Matt LaFleur said so afterwards, and don't see this being an issue going forward as they take on the Eagles. Yeah, will he have some residual little tingling numbness? Maybe, but we feel like his grip will be fine and he will be a full go for the game. Not quite the case for Christian Watson. We were wrong. We didn't think he'd make it back this week with his knee. And unfortunately, it seems like he came back a week too early. And that's the perils of coming back a week too early. Don't have any details yet, but it seems like he's going to miss an extended period of time.
Yeah, continuously battling usually those hamstring injuries for Christian Watson. We'll see if he can battle back. But another guy, Zay Flowers, on Saturday, Doc, as we watch, one of the key ingredients, if the Baltimore Ravens want to make a deep run, he is a great wide receiver. Gets banged up with the knee, left the game. What did you see from that injury? And also, is there a chance that he could play this week?
Well, here's the good news and bad news on what we've seen on Zay Flowers. The good news is it's not major. It's not season ending. It's not surgical. It happened not on the plan and cut. It's not his ACL. But after he fell, he got hit on the inside of the leg. The problem is his foot was leveraged against somebody else, and all the stress went to the knee. So he has a knee sprain, likely LCL or posterolateral corner. Mild, but still he's a speedy wide receiver. Yes, I think this is a week-to-week situation. It would be a big surprise if he could play next week against the Steelers. It would be a hope that he could play in 2 weeks. And if the Ravens advance to the conference round, I think it becomes more of a expectation that he could return. So he's not done, but still the news is not great.
That is a great week-by-week breakdown of what Baltimore will have throughout this playoff run. Dr. Chao, the other quarterback in the matchup between the Packers and the Eagles is Jalen Hurts, who, of course, was concussed in the opening half of the Week 17 game, or Week 16 game, rather, against the Washington Commanders. From what you have heard or seen, what is his status right now? What is the process of getting out of the concussion protocol as the Eagles get ready to host the Packers on Sunday?
I hear the chatter out of Philadelphia. He hasn't practiced in 2 weeks. They're worried. But it made sense to me that they weren't going to rush him back, because any sort of setback or second concussion or any sort of setback would put him out a lot longer. So I think they were just playing it cautiously. Now, if he doesn't progress smoothly this week, if you see a DMP on Wednesday this week, if you don't see a quick progression to FP this week, then I think we can let the worrying begin. But at this point in time, I'm still, I'm not in the building. It's hard to judge concussions by video from far away. But my expectation is he's actually fine and will be good to go.
Doc, let me ask you a quick question, too, because that big game last night, we might have had a casualty late. Kevin Zeitler grabbed his right hamstring, one of the better offensive linemen in football. They do get a bye week here. Did you see that injury? And also, could this be a multi-week lingering one for him?
Yeah, it does look like a hamstring injury for Zeitler. The question was, is it a mild hamstring strain, and pulls up just in time, or is it significant and that's the reaction? Or is it hopefully more just a cramp? It's hard to tell by video what it is, so it remains to be seen. More worry for the other cornerback with Carlton Davis already out with the foot issue in a boot. They give him the position that he has to play. Terrion Arnold, that's the bigger worry for the Lions. More stuff on the defense. And just as we talked about here on SportsGrid, Alex Anzalone returned before the end of the season and looked just fine 7 weeks from his broken forearm.
For the health of those playoff teams, SICScore.com. That is SICScore.com, so you get the status of everybody in the entire picture throughout the postseason. Dr. Chao, thank you so much. More on the early line up next. There's a lot of bowl games. I love all of them. Even if you don't like bowl games, you gotta love the Pop-Tarts Bowl and what it means for college football.
Who doesn't get excited for Pop-Tarts? But also, this is one of those where, Ben, I guess you could put your kids through college. Miami doesn't care about bowl games. They don't ever win those. Miami's a favorite. They usually go take the Iowa State Cyclones. Miami doesn't play any defense whatsoever, so you automatically just bang the total.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred, or just worked on the side, or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
So much to get to here on this Monday morning edition of the Early Line after the end of the regular season finale in the National Football League. We have looked at the playoff pictures, but as we have shared, an interesting wrinkle to the final day of the regular season is not just the race for playoff spots or number one seeds, but the number 1 overall draft pick in the 2025 NFL Draft in just a few months. This upcoming April, the Patriots in pole position to hold on to that first overall pick, a franchise that desperately needs to build up talent across the roster, even with a franchise quarterback to build around in Drake May. Just needed to lose at home against Buffalo. They win. So the Patriots will not draft first overall, rather fourth, and they'll have a new head coach that will influence the calls of what they do. Because of New England's win on Sunday, Tennessee, first overall pick. The Titans at number 1. The Browns number 2. The Giants number 3. And the Jags round out the top 5. All 18 picks, 1 through 18, have been determined based on those teams that did not qualify for the postseason within the NFL. But, Donnie, it's rather simple. When you look at the top 5, 3 teams need a quarterback in a draft right now that is perceived to only have 2 that will really go in the top 5. The Titans and the Browns in pole position to draft their quarterbacks of the future for their franchises.
Yeah, good for them. But also, when you started the season, I didn't think too many of us on our bingo cards had the Titans and the Browns 1 and 2.
Right.
You're looking at the Titans, who we didn't think they would be a great football team, but the way they spent their money at some key positions, like, you know what? They're going to hang around. They want to see what Will Levis has. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 wins. We'll see if they can get to the playoffs. They were terrible this year. The Cleveland Browns, with Deshaun Watson and all the talent they surrounded him with, they were hoping he could finally put it together. And even if he didn't, Ben, what did that mean? 8, 9, maybe 10 wins. It just didn't work out in their favor. They end up 2. The teams that we probably thought might be juggling around there would be the Giants and the Patriots, 2 of the teams that really needed to finish 1 and 2, you figured, may have missed their opportunities. Will they get quality football players? Yes. But just like in any sport, unless you're getting the most important position out there, which is quarterback, nothing really matters at this point. And I did see some Giants fans creep up and say, it's no big deal. You can always trade up to 1 and 2 and get your quarterback. Really? So you want to cost yourself a first-round pick and more just to move up when all you had to do was lose football games you weren't supposed to win down the stretch, and you could have claimed those spots yourself? If you're asking for the most egregious win, it had to be the Patriots. On Sunday, it really did. Like, Buffalo didn't throw out a Carson Wentz-esque Kansas City effort. Was like, we're not even trying to be here. We don't have anybody playing in this game. They actually put forward a decent effort here, and you still beat them at home. Imagine being a Patriots fan going to that game where the only thing you're cheering for is a Buffalo Bills win. So you could say this season was awful. We fired our head coach. We got the number 1 pick. We might have a semblance of some fun over the next couple of years watching this all play out, because you didn't need the quarterback for the Patriots, but you could have turned that number 1 into a windfall to surround that quarterback with some actual talent. So it is embarrassing the way some of these teams did play out their season. Even more embarrassing how they just couldn't continue their embarrassment over week 17 and 18 to take losses.
The Giants as a 7.5-point home dog against a Colts team that needed to win to keep its playoff hopes alive in week 17. They win outright. They lose control of the first overall pick. New York desperately needs a quarterback. And if this was last year, where we saw 6 QBs go in the opening round, that a record in the modern draft era dating back to 1997, all 6 QBs in the top 12, that also a record, maybe it would be different. And Donnie, entering the year, there was a thought, all right, 4 to 5 guys probably going to be in line to be a top 10, top 15, at least first-round pick. I'm not sure we have more than 2. At the start of this season, Carson Beck out of Georgia was the favorite to be the first overall selection at 3-1. Entering week 17, Shedeur Sanders was greater than a $2 favorite to be the first overall pick. So mark this down right here, right now. On Monday, January 6th, the first day after the end of the regular season, Cam Ward out of Miami is an ever so slight odds-on favorite to be that first overall pick at minus 125. A lot of change, DRS, from what we perceived entering this NFL and college football season.
Yes, and understand, smokescreen season has already begun. All college football season long, we were led to believe that Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders looked really good. Can't wait to get him in the pros. And then we get the behind the scenes, probably the Giants putting this out. We don't even have first-round grades on these 2 quarterbacks, hoping they fall to them here. I love smokescreen season. It's here. 2 great quarterbacks that now we're going to poke holes in all the way through.
Draft season is always fun. Tom Vecchio joins us next.
We'll be right back. It's time for a SportsGrid 2-minute drill.
Time now to play a little buy or sell. The Kansas City Chiefs, George, will win their third straight Super Bowl. Are you buying or selling?
They do seem to be hitting their stride. All right, they get now, 3.5 weeks off here, get everybody healthy. Mahomes, the ankle, Kelsey gets the rest. Chris Jones, who missed that game on Christmas, now he gets the rest of it. He's an extremely important part of that defense. So they're looking good. They're covering spreads now, something they weren't doing. Now they're actually winning legitimate games. That being said, that offensive line is still bad. All right, and I think there'll be teams that take advantage of that. No, I'm selling. I'm selling here.
I don't even care if I believe this or not. I'm selling. I do not want to see this. I do not want to see the Chiefs win again. This has not been a fun year watching them. They've gotten lucky. They've gotten some calls. No, please no. Jamar Chase will win the receiving triple crown this season. Yards, receptions, and touchdowns. George, you going to buy or sell this?
I'm going to sell this. I'm going to say, listen, he's great. He's going to have a lot of great numbers here, but I'm going to say no, he won't get the receiver crown. Maybe 2 out of 3. He'll just miss. He'll do a little Aaron Judge. Won't get the average.
All right, I'll play the buy. I'll play the buy card just to play something different in the end, and he was my best player in fantasy this year, so I'll say buy there. I'm going to skip ahead, Sam, to the last one, the running back here. Bucky Irving, who's been fantastic for Tampa Bay, will be a top 8 running back in drafts next season. Is this buy or sell?
Assuming everybody comes back, Godwin, Evans, Mayfield, I see no reason why they wouldn't. I'm going to buy this, Craig. I'm going to buy. I think Bucky Irving is going to be that guy. It's a heavy passing offense, lots of touchdowns. Buy.
Fantasy Sports Today, your weekend source for year-round fantasy insights. 8 a.m. to 11 a.m.
The end of the regular season around the National Football League, so the early handicaps for the playoff picture all around the NFL with TV Tom Vecchio of SportsGrid live right here on this Monday. No Monday Night Football game to preview in the NFL for that prop perspective, but we'll get Tom's thoughts on the playoff picture around the National Football League and when and where we can start to dive in. Vecchio, as always, thank you for joining us to kick off a new week on TEL.
Of course, thanks for having me. We are in a great spot for the playoffs. There are some early lines already posted in terms of player props. I've already jumped in on some. We've already seen some line movement. There's some potential weather expected next weekend in Philly. I know Donnie's obviously going to be paying attention to that, so I'm already in on the under on that game. Some overs on some players. Let's roll.
Yep, let's roll. Let's get right into it, Vecchio, and let's look at the path through a postseason March for all these teams in either conference. We start in the AFC. The Chiefs are the 1 seed. They have the bye and home field advantage throughout. The Bills the 2, Ravens 3, Texans at the 4 spot. You see the wild card teams on your right side. We've got some very hefty spreads, Vecchio, in 2 of our 3 opening round games within the AFC. Both the Steelers and the Broncos north of touchdown underdogs on the road. The Chargers actually a slight road favorite, now laying a field goal in Houston. So we look at the playoff picture and what it means for the AFC championship odds. All year long, really, in the AFC, it's been a tier of 3. You can move those prices and maybe jockey those positions ever so slightly, but it's been the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Ravens. Is there a bet you would make in the AFC entering Super Wildcard Weekend?
It's really tough because of where the odds are, and I honestly think they're spot on. And the point for value might have passed already, where you said like the tiers are there, and that's just what we see here. Like the Bills are so much better than the Broncos overall. And the Ravens are better than the Steelers. And maybe, the Chargers can give one of those teams a run for their money, because I do expect the Chargers to win this weekend. But the Steelers, the Broncos, they're just not going to be making any noise. And it's going to come down to one of those final three teams. So it's at a point, like if you jumped in earlier in the season, maybe when the Ravens, fell a few games behind and the Steelers won that hot streak, and you got the Ravens at a better conference price, congrats on that. But I think, honestly, the point for value has passed, and you just have to take it game by game. I think we will not see one of those bottom tier teams win any game. That's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, take a look at the NFC there, Tom. Not as top heavy as the AFC, much more balanced all the way through, where some upsets could occur. Which, why don't we start talking about the NFC, and starting with that key game last night? The Lions really impressed me with defense. They were outright the better team from start to finish. Great defense. Offense got in when they could. Jahmyr Gibbs was great. They're the number one overall seed. But talk to me about the feelings behind the Vikings, who came into that game last night 2.5-point dogs. They win. They're the one seed. They get the rest. Now they lose that game. They got to lick their wounds and head out west to a team and play the Rams, who sat their key starters here. What's the vibes around the Vikings that we're looking at right now entering into the playoffs?
They can't be good, especially considering how they lost and how inefficient they were on offense. And, kind of some of those things was like, a lot of people, and maybe it's just my opinion, what I'm reading it, like a lot of people were just like waiting for the other shoe to drop with Sam Darnold. Like, oh, he's been great, but like, we know there are times that he can seriously struggle, and we saw that last week, not to mention the fact that he got a little bit banged up. He was limping around. They have to go on the road. Granted, they have that day because they're playing on Monday night, but it doesn't look great for the Vikings, and I'm already in on the Rams at +2.5. I like them for that spot. Home field advantage. They had essentially a bye week with their starters. Listen, the Vikings had a great season, but they missed their time to strike, and it was getting that first-round bye, and I think it's all about the Rams this upcoming week.
The Rams on a short Thursday night game on a short week did beat the Vikings at home as a slight underdog as well. That really turned the Rams season around to be where they are, champions of the NFC West. Vecchio, as Donnie alluded to, a little bit more up in the air when you look at the NFC playoff picture. The Lions, the 1 seed, and the favorites to win the conference crown, a short number at this moment. The Eagles have the second best price. Then we go to the two teams out of the NFC North. You mentioned the Rams being live for an upset to end out Super Wildcard Weekend. Is there better value to be had in betting the NFC Championship odds?
It's got to be the Rams. Like, that's where the value would lie, because if we're looking at those odds there, if the Rams beat the Vikings, they're out. And if the Eagles take care of business, then we have two teams that are ahead of the Rams immediately eliminated, right? Now we're working with the spots like, okay, we have some good line movement. Those two teams are gone. So the number will drop on the Rams. So this may be a spot where I don't believe the Rams are the best team. I still think it would come down to the Lions or the Eagles, but just getting in on that line at 13-1 would be the spot that I go. I already took the Rams at +2.5, like I said, and I will be taking them at 13-1 to win the division. That's win the conference, that is. We're past the division at this point.
Should be a great Super Wildcard Weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So if we do look at the Super Bowl odds as a whole, I'm going to ask you this one question. Right now, the favorite, the Detroit Lions at 3-1, Kansas City Chiefs at +350, clearly a tier of 2. Do you agree that the Lions should be the favorite here to win the Super Bowl?
Probably. I know a lot of people just they don't want to bet on the Chiefs, so maybe there's just more money on the Lions, and that's where the odds may be. I have a future on the Lions to play the Chiefs. It's not about either team beating one another. It's just about that direct matchup. So that's what I'm certainly hoping to see. But if you were to tell me we're going to see the Chiefs versus the Eagles, like obviously I'm not going to be surprised at that point. If we're going to be seeing the Lions versus the Bills, I know that's a matchup a lot of people want to see just because they want to see other franchises win. I'm not going to be surprised, but I think the odds are super spot on this year. It's not like what we've seen in previous years. We've known who the best teams are since the start of the season, and people want to talk about, maybe the Chargers making a run, maybe the Steelers making a run, but it really comes down to like just these 2 or 3 teams from each conference, and that's just, it is what it is this year.
The 1 seeds, as we learned last night on the broadcast, since we have seen 1 seeds be a thing in the National Football League, their ability to play in Super Bowls, the cream does rise to the top throughout an NFL postseason. Vecchio, looking at the opening round of the NFL postseason, Super Wildcard Weekend, 6 matchups, 2 on Saturday, a triple header on Sunday, and a Monday night nightcap in Los Angeles to end it out. You mentioned the Rams +2.5, keeping an eye on the total for that Eagles and Packers game midway in the afternoon on Sunday. an early line approach from your NFL postseason handicapping, where else might you be looking?
That's Bo Nix over 34.5 passing attempts. You know, what we saw from the Broncos yesterday, right? They win 38-0. They're out in front the entire game. Bo Nix leads the team in rushing. They don't have a single running back that can get to 50 yards. And this is what I've been saying for weeks at this point. The Broncos cannot run the ball. They have this three-headed monster in the backfield, and none of them are good. So when you have a game script where you're up by literally several touchdowns and you can't control the ground game to have a single running back get to 50 yards, and they're going to be 8.5 or 9-point underdogs by the time that game closes, Bo Nix is going to have to throw the ball because they cannot move the ball on the ground. So it is juiced a little bit at minus 130, minus 135, whatever. But that has to be the early spot to take. Under on the Eagles game, because then I'm expecting some weather to impact that. And then I like the Rams at plus 2.5. That's what it comes down to. I also wouldn't hate taking C.J. Stroud over on passing yards or passing attempts. It's probably not going to be efficient by any means, but he'll probably have to get there for the Texans to stay in it.
And the Texans are a field goal underdog at home to start off our first game of our Saturday doubleheader in the opening round. Vecchio, we saw Tom's top props for this Monday outside of the NFL without any actual games on this Monday, whether on the hardwood or on the ice. Where are you looking?
Devils three-way money line. That means they have to win in regulation, sitting at minus 125. Couple game losing streak for them. They're simply just better than the Seattle Kraken. I expect them to bounce back, come away with the win. Josh Hart over 9.5 rebounds. Karl-Anthony Towns is listed as questionable. He left the most recent game early, and even if we look back at the game log for Josh Hart, he's piling up 12, 13, 16, 14 rebounds in some of these games, even when Karl-Anthony Towns is playing. Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't need to be out there tonight against the Magic when the Knicks are heavy favorites. So just let Josh Hart do his thing. Rest Karl-Anthony Towns.
9-game NBA slate tonight. The Knicks a 12-point home favorite against Orlando inside Madison Square Garden. TV Tom Vecchio, we appreciate you as always. CFP early line next.
We'll be right back. It's time for a SportsGrid 2-minute drill.
Time now to play a little buy or sell. The Kansas City Chiefs, George, will win their third straight Super Bowl. Are you buying or selling?
They do seem to be hitting their stride. All right, they get now, 3.5 weeks off here, get everybody healthy. Mahomes the ankle, Kelsey gets the rest. Chris Jones, who missed that game on Christmas, now he gets the rest of it. He's an extremely important part of that defense. So they're looking good. They're covering spreads now, something they weren't doing. Now they're actually winning legitimate games. That being said, that offensive line is still bad. All right, and I think there'll be teams that take advantage of that. No, I'm selling. I'm selling here.
I don't even care if I believe this or not. I'm selling. I do not want to see this. I do not want to see the Chiefs win again. This has not been a fun year watching them. They've gotten lucky. They've gotten some calls. No, please no. Jamar Chase will win the receiving triple crown this season. Yards, receptions, and touchdowns. George, you going to buy or sell this?
I'm going to sell this. I'm going to say, listen, he's great. He's going to have a lot of great numbers here, but I'm going to say no, he won't get the receiver crown. Maybe 2 out of 3. He'll just miss. He'll do a little Aaron Judge. He won't get the average.
All right, I'll play the buy. I'll play the buy card just to play something different in the end, and he was my best player in fantasy this year, so I'll say buy there. I'm going to skip ahead, Sam, to the last one, the running back here. Bucky Irving, who's been fantastic for Tampa Bay, will be a top 8 running back in drafts next season. Is this buy or sell?
Assuming everybody comes back, Godwin, Evans, Mayfield, I see no reason why they wouldn't. I'm going to buy this, Craig. I'm going to buy. I think Bucky Irving is going to be that guy. It's a heavy passing offense, lots of touchdowns. Buy.
Fantasy Sports Today, your weekend source for year-round fantasy insights. 8 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Not only are we getting you set for the National Football League postseason, but in just a few days, we are back to the college football playoff. The Final Four, the semifinals in the CFP. Thursday night in Miami, it's the Orange Bowl between Notre Dame and Penn State. Friday night in the heart of Texas, the Cotton Bowl in Dallas between those in-state Longhorns taking on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Let's start with Thursday night that begins. What a stretch of football we have this weekend. A 5-day run, college football playoff semifinal, college football playoff semifinal, doubleheader of NFL postseason games on Saturday, triple header on Sunday, Monday night to end out Super Wild Card weekend. So we start at the start. Thursday night in South Florida, it's the Orange Bowl in Miami between Penn State and Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish, a slight favorite, 1.5 points. But the money line is working more so in the favor of Notre Dame. Our smaller of two totals at 46 and a hook as compared to the Cotton Bowl. DRS, your early lean here on the early line for the Orange Bowl between the Irish and the Nittany Lions.
Like, I'm going to paint the picture here, because if you look at Penn State and you say, Penn State, maybe we can equate them to the Denver Broncos. You got to win a football game. You're better than that team is. You always win that football game. The minute you need to win a football game where you're the underdog, you have no chance at it. But I'm starting to come around a little bit on Penn State here. Maybe it's Abdul Carter needs to be healthy for this football game to put pressure. But I do think these two teams are matched up accordingly, which is why you're only getting a 1.5 point spread and a lower number. Two teams that want to play really good defense, establish the run game, and work on their passing game. I do think Penn State, for me, does have the better passing game with Drew Aller than, let's just say, a Riley Leonard. I love Riley Leonard. My favorite bet last week with Notre Dame was, boy, he's going to run the football a lot, and he did, because his legs can win you a football game more than Aller can. But for my money, you have a little bit extra time to prepare for Penn State. It's not that overwhelming of a favorite where you're getting 3.5, 4.5, 5.5 points here, let's just say, as a underdog for Penn State, which in the past they technically don't win those games. I'm feeling Penn State early in the week, as I think it's a very good matchup for them going up against Notre Dame.
Donnie Rightside will be in studio, I am told, for a Thursday night college football playoff
7:30
special.
start?
Along a 7:30 start Thursday night. Alongside his PFT cohorts, it's important to keep crews together. He'll be with Kevin Walsh and Joe Lisi. Do you recognize, though, what you are walking into with a man in old K-Dubs who just celebrated birthday number 30 in a very celebratory holiday season that had to battle the Walsh family because of his Georgia National Championship ticket for that quarterfinal game in the Sugar Bowl against the Irish? Kevin Walsh Jr., Kevin Patrick James? Kevin James? Why am I blanking on Kevin's middle name? It is Patrick, right?
What is it? I don't know. Does he even have one? Does he even have one?
I think it's Kevin Patrick Walsh. Kevin
great television
Patrick Walsh is what we're going with it. And until we hear otherwise, we will let
the junior.
Donnie, the entire Walsh family is the Notre Dame allegiance. And he had to battle against that. But now he gets Notre Dame in a CFP semi. He is fully in. So enter right side. The thorn in his side always for a Fighting Irish and Nittany Lions game, a duel between Marcus Freeman and James Franklin. I really do believe you are in for a marquee day, DRS.
I mean, do we even know if Kevin's Irish? I mean, he's just play this up here. I mean, we don't know for sure. We haven't seen the DNA test at that point here. But I did end Pro Football Today telling him, he's like, we'll see you Thursday night. And I'm like, yeah, Penn State's going to win that game. And ended sort of a downward trend on the show where he got upset. And, you know, if there are ranking orders, it's Penn State and everybody else in teams that I do like to hate. But growing up, I hated Notre Dame. I'm a Catholic, but I love the Miami Hurricanes. Catholics versus Convicts was the biggest game of the year every year. All my friends were either Penn State fans or Notre Dame fans. I was a Miami guy. So theoretically, I win either way because one of them loses, and then I lose either way because one of them wins here. But I always go against Penn State in this spot. I actually think Penn State's in a good spot to win it. It's crazy how you come around sometimes.
And this is why I believe you are in that marquee spot on Thursday, because you are dueling internally and then with your two co-hosts as well. For what it's worth, I bet the Fighting Irish when this line opened up -120 on the money line. To Donnie's point, Penn State expected to win a football game. They often do, and often comfortably so. 35 of 41 games since the start of 2022 season, booked as a favorite. Penn State is 34-1 straight up, 25-9-1 against the spread. All right, how about as an underdog in those 6 other games? 0-6 outright. 1-5 against the spread. The only cover back in 2022's regular season against Ohio State. They were a 15.5-point dog and lost that game still by double digits, albeit a cover. Our game on Friday night in the heart of Texas. It's the Cotton Bowl at Jerry World, AT&T Stadium, between the in-state team, that being Texas, and your national championship favorites now in Ohio State. The Buckeyes, a 5.5-point favorite against the Longhorns, total 53.5. Donnie, for me, the early story of this semifinal matchup is the market movement. The projected line, Ohio State, a slight 1.5 favorite. After the Rose Bowl, it opens with Ohio State as a 4.5-point favorite and has been continuously bet only on one side, the Buckeyes. Will this game be closer than that spread might indicate?
I do think it will, and I think it's getting a little bit of that recency bias. Look, Texas is a good program. We know that. Ohio State did have some stumbles this year as they lost by 1 point to Oregon. Tough environment, tough team to play. But then you saw the Michigan game, which really threw it out of whack. Like, okay, they're back after their 2 playoff games where they absolutely dominated. If we're just looking with the final 4 teams left, Ben, it's apparent. The most talented team by far is Ohio State. If Will Howard plays anywhere near, Ben, he did against Oregon, nobody's beating Ohio State. But we have some games to go back and be like, ooh, was that the right decision made here? And Chip Kelly, what kind of offense are we running again? Chip Kelly's on a heater right now. Can he stay on that heater? But I do think this game could be possibly played within a field goal here.
You see Ohio State minus 110, now an odds-on favorite to win a national championship. Although it was Texas as the title favorites entering the college football playoff quarterfinal round. DRS, enjoy the money line. I think I'll see you on Wednesday. That's cool. The early line is back, baby.
Look at that.
Right?
Dubsy!
I don't know. More TL next.
I don't like to toot my own horn, and I know that I'm setting myself up for probably disappointment later tonight, but I hope you were with us last week on the Final Five, because we almost swept the board. We had 2 out of 3 on the power play points with Reinhardt and Matthews. We hit the goal scorer line A. We hit the side with Washington. We hit the total with the over in Toronto and Buffalo. So we had a really good Final Five last week, and I'm hoping that we can now ride that wave.
Only on SportsGrid.
50 points in a fourth quarter for the Atlanta Hawks. Like, what is going on? It's like circus numbers. What are we doing?
And we sound like 2 old heads complaining. It's a tough watch. It's a tough watch sometimes. I don't mind the shooting. I just know the numbers. Like, when you strictly look at it from the numbers in betting, it's getting really hard to bet.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Louis Riddick has interviewed for every job in North America. And I'm not just talking football. I'm talking about every business in North America of any kind whatsoever. Tire companies, grocery store CEOs, shopping malls, insurance companies. What job hasn't Louis Riddick interviewed for?
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
The NBA will take center stage once football stops, and people will watch the NBA playoffs and all that. But the standings are whacked out in the Western Conference. Like, Oklahoma City, Memphis, and the Houston Rockets are the best teams in the conference.
You want to talk about a team with overs and no defense? The Wizards are your team. It's unbelievable. They can't make a total high enough. It's nuts.
Sports Rage tonight. Weeknights 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid, rounding out our 3 hours together on this Monday on TEL. We talked about the 5-day stretch run that we have of football starting on Thursday. College football playoff semifinal at the Orange Bowl. It's Notre Dame and Penn State. Friday night, college football playoff semifinal at the Cotton Bowl. It's Ohio State and Texas. Then Super Wild Card weekend in the NFL. 2 games Saturday, 3 more on Sunday. A Monday nightcap to end out the weekend. But don't just think about next weekend. Football continues on this Monday night in Frisco, Texas. A national championship is on the line. The FCS national title game between the powerhouses of FCS football in North Dakota State and a Montana State team that is the 1 seed in the bracket and looking for FCS national championship number 2, the first since 1984. The Bobcats have been absolutely dominant in their run to the title game this year. A rematch of the 2021 title game, by the way, in which Montana State came up short against NDSU. That goes to speak about what the Bison have done in Fargo for many a year. South Dakota State, the biggest rival of North Dakota State, had won the previous 2 FCS national championships. In the semifinal round a couple of Saturdays ago, it was North Dakota State edging out South Dakota State in a low-scoring game, 13-9. So, North Dakota State knocking out the 2-time reigning champs prior to the Jackrabbits winning 2 straight. NDSU had won 4 of the previous 5, 9 of the prior 11. North Dakota State is the powerhouse at this level. But can Tommy Mellott, the quarterback of the Bobcats, and Montana State pull off this national championship victory? You see it there. Montana State, a 3.5-point favorite tonight in Frisco. Tommy Mellott, basically the Heisman winner, if you will, at this level of FCS college football. The Walter Payton Award, one of the best in the country, both on the ground and through the air. The quarterback for the Cats, one of the best rushing teams in all of the country. But you could make a similar argument for NDSU. Cam Miller, as good as you will see at the quarterback spot for the Bison as well. Talented defensively on that side of the football. But I actually lean Montana State, who won by 32-33 in its 2 opening round games. Then in the semifinal as a 9.5-point favorite against South Dakota, won by 2 touchdowns, 31-17. I do believe that on this Monday night, the team that has not been the powerhouse at the FCS level makes a statement. Montana State, a champion, and maybe even covering as a 3.5-point favorite in the FCS National Championship game tonight. Whew. It's going to be a great stretch run of football that we have. 2 weeks from tonight, by the way, the FBS National Championship game, the college football playoff national title that we have. All right, elsewhere around the sports landscape, big weekend of college basketball, really to start a new year and to signal a new season, if you will, within CBB. It is conference action basically from here on out. Some of the best matchups each and every week in conference play. The number 1 team in the country showing why in Knoxville on Saturday. Tennessee absolutely hammering Arkansas by 24. Iowa State, great inside Hilton Coliseum. They took care of business against Baylor in a top 25 tilt on Saturday afternoon. Alabama, a rout of Oklahoma, winning by nearly 30. That's OU's first loss of this season. Kentucky handing Florida its first loss of the year in a high-scoring game in Lexington. That game was basically a pick-em by the time we got to tip. So only one unbeaten team still at the Division I level of 364 in men's college basketball. It is Tennessee. UConn had to come back despite being booked as a 14.5-point favorite yesterday against Providence. They were down by as many as 14 in the second half. They win 87-84. And Nebraska has won 20 consecutive games in Lincoln inside Pinnacle Bank Arena. They pull off the slight outright upset against number 15 UCLA on Saturday afternoon. What a weekend it was in college basketball. what a conference slate it is going to be. Now, Tennessee might be number one and the only undefeated side left, but their conference mate in Auburn is the national championship favorite at plus 550. The early line returns tomorrow on a Tuesday, 8 a.m. Eastern time. Here on the Grid. Talk to you then.